Friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are, another episode in the Tell Us Your Story podcast series, and I've got somebody that I've got to say, he's great company. I love him to bits. He's one of my favourite people in the industry, and his name is Rory Fidler. He's the Senior Vice President, and I say Senior Vice President, Cargo Technology with MENZIES. Rory, lovely to see you again, my friend, and I meant what I said at the beginning.
Good afternoon, Chris. It's always an absolute delight to meet you, to talk with you, and chew the fat in more ways than one. So thank you for your welcome. Something I guess for a number of years I've quietly thought one day he's going to get to F's in his network and I'll get on his podcast. So looking forward to it.
Mate, me and Salem have had many F's on this podcast, but it wasn't to do with surnames, my friend. But listen, mate, no, it's not. It doesn't work like that at all. It's just when the right time would come, and the right time for you is now. I would suggest, because you're so busy. Some of the posts I've seen, I mean, you're here, you're there. Your days must be blending into weeks, into months. You don't know where you're waking up, what time zone you're on. But it's really, really impressive, my friend, to see your schedule and see the way you're presenting and thanking all the people in your organisation. It's nice to see, Rory. It's good.
Yeah, we grabbed the bull by the horns just over 2 years ago, and it's always good to lay a big bet. And the bet was, can we build a grounds up handling system? And I was pretty confident we could do that. So the next challenge that was put to me was, can we then roll it out? And I was like, yeah, we can probably do that, but it'll be about 3 years. And then we looked at it and thought, we haven't actually got that. So it has been a little bit of building it, heart and lung transplants going on, and at the same time rolling it out. So it's been a pretty frantic 2 years. Interestingly, your timing, Chris, is fantastic. Last night we went live in Accra, which is our 19th station, and that's 50% of our sites that have our current cargo management system in. So we're halfway. We're halfway there. I think there might be a song there.
Yeah, no, good on you. Oh, yeah, halfway home. No, but good on you. Good on you. Now, what we did was about, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I put out a post just saying, would love to hear people who, love the business, have had a great life in the business, and obviously still in the business, but why they would recommend it to anybody else that was thinking of coming in. And with all the activity you've done, and like I said, you're a great company. I've had some great evenings and days with you. And I just want to know, tell us how did you start? When did you start? And what have been the key points?
I had nothing to do with either airlines or cargo at the beginning. I worked for a foreign exchange trading system. I was always in technology, and I did a number of years there. And then in the early 20s, I had my own online e-commerce business selling IT equipment. And then I went to take a year out. My parents lived out in the Middle East, and I got on the plane with my newly arrived son and my wife. And the CIO of a small airline at that particular time called Etihad Airways was sat next to me. And so chatting to Richard, I promised my wife absolutely that I would not go into the workaholic tendencies that I flirted with. I'd take a year out with her. And the following Monday, I went for an interview from Bahrain to Abu Dhabi. And 10 days later, I was working as employee number 82, I think, for Etihad Airways in Abu Dhabi.
Brilliant. No, brilliant. And obviously that's where our paths first crossed. And even way back then, mate, you were an absolute pleasure to have as a colleague and good company. Now that's how you started and you got into the industry. Now, with everything that you've done, Rory, what would you say are the major changes that you've seen that are having a big impact on the business over those years?
I think to come from a foreign exchange trading environment, Chris, and the technology we had. I don't know if some people in the cargo industry know, but XML has been around for 35 years.
Yeah.
So To walk into that and be talking about, how do we get electronic messages? It was like, what do you mean? We're moving the lifeblood of, you know, certain industries around transporting it, logistics, and we're talking about XML as if it's a brand new thing. So I found it quite a challenge just to say we're behind the game here,
Yeah,
and there's other industries out there, and I've always tried to um, look over the fence at other industries and look at innovation and bits and pieces around and about. Um, but what's changed is that I think there's finally an appetite for change,
yeah,
driven by COVID. And Everybody says, COVID's sort of now forgotten to a degree, but what came out of there is that cargo and air cargo, it has an ability to flex its muscles, react, and move forward. And everybody says, "Oh, how's it going to recover? How are we going to get past it?" But I don't think there's a recovery there. I think it's the fact that it stepped up to the plate. It was
yeah,
flexible, it was capable, and the ability to handle and ship and distribute hundreds of millions of very delicate files of um, medicine gave a lot of us the belief that we were much better than we were.
yeah,
We
yeah,
had this belief that we were antiquated and we can do this stuff. And we can, we can provide a fabulous service. We can give you quality and speed. But I think what it did do is that there were two things that happened. I think we realized that we had to just become more integrated, and I'm not talking about the software so much, but we had to change. We had to be more engaged with our stakeholders and through the whole chain. And the biggest thing that we're doing at the moment is trying to find software and deliver this solution so that we can attract people into the industry. You know,
yeah,
I'm just recently gone through my 23rd birthday, and I'm a bit closer to the sun than I was. And my son's 18. How do I get an 18-year-old into a system that's still got a blue screen?
yeah,
And that's why we're very proud of what we're doing in Menzies with Project Mac. But I think there is an appetite for the change, and I think it's not being driven by the fact that everybody's woken up saying we're going to go and do this. It's driven up by the fact that we have to. We have to make the change and we have to accelerate it to remain attractive.
yeah. No, I agree with that. And one thing I want to ask, because it's something that's always frustrated the living daylights out of me, is whenever you go through a rollout or a new system or a change to the system or major upgrades or whatever, the tendency in my day, or from what I recall, is that then all of a sudden the organisation creates a bunch of IT alien super users within their own organisation. And the actual feet on ground, the guys who are really doing the practical work, they don't get involved or they don't get included. And then all of a sudden the gap starts to widen as the aliens get better awareness, and then they think they really do think they're super, not just super users. And then when something then goes wrong, the feet on ground people say, yeah, but the system's no good, or I wasn't this, or I wasn't that, and which isn't fair as well. And whenever I've done a gap analysis on some of the systems that I've reviewed, to be fair, the systems aren't being used to their fullest extent and they're not being used properly. Now,
Yeah.
that goes on and on and on. And even now, Rory, doing a few with tenders and doing station capability reviews and stuff and looking at audits, people are still struggling, even with some of the basics.
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying, Chris. And a lot of this stuff is developed by technologists, and the worst thing that you can do is jam technology down people's throat, because if you've got a problem with the process, all the technology is going to do is make the problem arrive quicker. That's all
Yeah,
it's going to do. It's going to make
yeah,
it either worse or arrive quicker. So to address that, I've always surrounded myself with subject matter experts, real deep subject matter experts. So, some names out there, Kathy Donaldson, Jerry Duffett, Chris Pratt, Aaron Subramanian. These are all people that I've used in my teams and managed.
Yeah.
who have got 20 years of service of knowing how to run a shed. A
Yeah.
couple of
Yeah.
those guys, I could walk into a shed and they'll say, there's a problem with trucking here. And I'm
Yeah.
stood there saying, what are you talking about? And they'll
Yeah.
say, because, all of the pallets are the wrong way around. And I'm thinking, far too intelligent. But these people do make me look very good. So I employ them specifically because, I'm not always very good at cargo. I know enough to become a problem and know when it's not right. But I think that's the key, to get these subject matter experts and then, get them in, because there's two things. If you don't fix the process, that's first thing. If you don't fix the change management, that's the second thing. So if you walk in with a shiny new system and somebody who's been in there and a gnarly old boy who's done 30 years at the truck dock in Heathrow, and he says, I don't like this handheld, and it doesn't make a difference, it's going to end up in a ULD in Germany before you even blink. And it's like, where did all that equipment go? So it's getting them, and that's what we did with Mac. We started with the processes. I mean, we've used about 500,000 post-its and white sheets of paper, but we redesigned all of the processes. We mapped them through, and we have three drivers. The driver is simplicity, performance, and usability. And all of the rest takes care of itself. And every single workshop that we've done for 2 years, does it make it easier for the person? When we designed the handhelds, the persona, and I hate using words like that, it makes me sound like a consultant, is somebody who's on, in Atlanta with two pairs of gloves on, and he's just unloaded 16 ULDs off a freighter. Can he press that button? So,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
ULD,
Yeah.
and those are the sort of things that we've used, and that the people at the SMEs in my teams are saying, no, this is how we would do it at
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh well, hopefully I'm senior enough that I don't have to do that.
No, no, no. But it's so important, Rory. It's
Yeah,
so important to
absolutely.
make sure that the people on the ground, because if they actually feel that they're being cared for, then they'll care for the equipment and they'll care for what the change is, and they'll come on board a lot quicker.
Yeah, yeah, and we're seeing that, Chris. We are putting 6 airports live in August.
Nice.
I don't know what day of the week it is, but if it wasn't for the key people within the business who have only done some train the trainer sessions, but they like the software, they can see what's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And so we fly in so two or three key people, and then they go and spread the word. Now you have to build the story for them. You have to believe in the product. I have, a picture, which is my elevator pitch with the whole Mac thing.
Yeah.
And, in 12 months and a day, we said we would go live. Now, the station that we chose to go live, it's probably not any bigger than your living room, but it was at least one on the board.
Yeah.
And, that was for my CV to prove that we could do it. But now the ones are becoming 2s and 3s, and the stations are going out and they're moving the stations alive. So, we're in the States at the moment, but people from Los Angeles, from Dallas are going to go and do two of the small hubs. That's how we're going to roll out in Australia. We're using people from within the
Yeah.
operation to go and support the project team. So we
Yeah.
just become facilitators rather than this is the technology. And all of our training is electronic. So, there is no such thing as a user manual anymore. The process is mapped out so that if you're in the reception area, you just get the screens for your reception process. You don't suddenly have 35 screens where you think, I don't even know where the airway bill number goes in. So but if that person is interested and they want to do more training, then they get more and more access. So suddenly you can see people who are really keen to use it because they self-train and they go
Yeah.
and look into the system. And then suddenly, if you're managing that person, you think, maybe there's a bit more. And here we go. There's a younger person, there's ambition there, and maybe suddenly they want to be starting to run a shift.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's what it is, because then you get down to the real practical
Yeah,
success level, which is based all around people, practices, and performance. And if the
Yeah.
people are engaged and what they do reflects what they should be doing, then you're going to get the optimum performance, which is going to reflect in your customer service, your results, your tomorrows and everything else. And it's the right way to do it.
And one thing, and another thing we're not doing, Chris, is we're not saying that there's a specific reason we're doing it in this time scale, but we're not going out there to say we've got all of the answers. It's working. We're doing nearly 10,000 tons a week through it, and it's up and running. But we have a separate team within the project team who are looking at enhancements already.
Yeah.
Because if it's on a white sheet and a post-it, it may not be quite right at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
It does come back to it's a big project team. It's a big program. There's I think 116 people on it with all of the Wipro team who are fabulous. The hours that they work, the hours that my team work, I'm just blown away. I don't think they've had a full weekend off for 4 or 5 months, but they believe in it. They have the passion, and nobody truly believes that we can do it. So it's a little bit of the last squad into war, and those that do believe and we make it, we shall have a big party at the end of the year when we pull it off.
I'm sure you will, my friend. And one of the things that you said there, and just to wrap this session up with you, you said there about believing in it and having the passion. And the one thing that will come across to anybody who watches this podcast, Rory, is no matter what it is, you are always enthusiastic, positive, upbeat, and you're a joy to listen to as well. So when you're out there pitching your elevator pitch or your storyline, if you're able to make people believe in it and then they get behind you, then it will happen. And I know you don't like to hear it. You don't like to hear it, but you've done a great job, mate, and you're always very, very good at what you do.
And it's not about me. I'm just the circus master in the clown thing. But it's important to keep it spinning and keep people believing, because it isn't easy. It's and you build a big enterprise system and suddenly you've got a problem that doesn't post the ice charges, and somebody's got to sit down for 2 days and work it all out. But they've got to believe it's going to be okay, and I can do the top cover and look after them so that they can do the job. So actually, yes, we are doing a lot of mileage, and I go to these places because the customs people, historically, we're not very good. Technologists aren't very good at implementing big technology solutions, right? We generally don't do a good job of it. So when you're there, people like to see somebody sat in the chair from customs or wherever. They can come and shout at me. The people who do the real work, I can keep the heat off them. But actually, all that they think I'm really doing is trying to win the best cake competition that I've got running. As each shed goes live, they have to buy a cake.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And, at the end of the season, I'll be about 4 more stone heavier, and I'll be sick of blue and white cake. But we should have pulled it all through the over the line. And again, we're back to the teams are just powering away at it. They just keep on going.
Yeah, and what I'd like to do, Rory, is, that's lovely to hear from you, but clearly now you've looked at things and you've thought, okay, I was expecting this, I wasn't expecting that. But then when you reflect on it, I'd love to see what your sort of white paper overview is of not just the challenges of doing a project like that, but more importantly, the successes, and not so much just the technology successes, but what successes have people experienced as a result of having a better system that's been introduced, and because they understand it and believe in it and actually want to use it. So that's something for another day, which I'd love to do. But I think I'd like to do another couple of sessions with you, and I'm sure Sarah listening in would as well, whereby we look and we ask you, what would you say if you were put under pressure to provide key tips for a rollout, or basic ingredients for success when you're doing such a major project like you've done? And we maybe have another couple of episodes if you're okay with that.
Yeah, no, I'm always open to spending time with you, Chris. I could spiel on about this stuff for weeks. So I think to close this little sort of part of the segment down is, people are scared of change,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and it doesn't matter whether you're doing technology or people are used to going in and doing the thing. And the scale of change, you have to neutralize that fear. You have to get specialists like my SMEs who stay in their lanes, are comfortable in their lanes, and you know never eat the elephant in one sitting. I've had a couple of goes at that, and it never works very well the next day. So just break it down, and just don't let them look 3 months ahead because they'll scare themselves when they look around the corner. But
yeah,
then suddenly at the end of the month, you've done another four. And okay, you've left a little bit behind because you've got a problem in, you know, in London, but somebody will go and mop that up, and we'll go sort that out. But you keep it moving, and when you get moving, they get confident. When they get confident, they realise they're adding value, and then you're teaming and you know believing, and your stakeholders are backing off because they're trusting you. And then suddenly you think, oh my God, we might finish this. But you have to set the tone. You have to set the relationship with your suppliers. You know, Wipro are absolutely critical to us. The best place for a contract when you're doing a program of work like this is in the drawer in the desk, and taking the time at the beginning to make sure that you're brutally honest about what you expect from them, what they expect from you. And obviously, I get it at a quarter of the price that they want to sell it at, then we're all happy. Well, not
exactly, exactly.
everybody, but enough of us to make them happy.
I'm sure they're listening in on that, and they'll want to give you a rebate because of how successful it's.
Well, I'm sure they've had so much fun with me, just being calm and laid back at all the steering groups. They'll be saying, "I don't know why we do this for free."
I can imagine, Rory. I can imagine, my friend. Listen, seriously, it's an absolute pleasure, and it
Thank
always
you, Chris.
is. And I look forward to bumping into you soon. Who knows where it'll be? But I won't be giving you a cake.
No, don't, no more cake. Let's go savoury.
Yeah,
I'm a bit caked out, but yeah, I think we're heading towards Dallas and San Francisco next week. So and then as you say, never look more than a month ahead because you'll scare yourself.
exactly, my friend. Exactly. And in more things in life than IT as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, live and feel today. All right, my friend. Take care of yourself. God bless. I'll
Yeah,
bump into you somewhere.
a pleasure, Chris. Thanks very much for your time, and all the best. Look after
Cheers
yourself.
now. Thank you.
Bye bye.